Hello, my name is Lynn Snej, and I am the director of the Arts and Culture Center at the Middle East Institute. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's Creatives Corner conversation with award-winning journalist and producer Rhana Natour. For those of you who are joining us for the first time on one of Rana's wonderful conversations, Creatives Corner is an interview series, a collaboration between MEI's Arts and Culture Center and journalist Rhana Natour to host Arab and Arab American creatives, artists, actors, comedians, producers, thinkers, and highlight their journeys and their important contributions to the global art scene and global conversations around important current issues. MEI's Arts and Culture Center's mission is to provide a platform for artists and creatives from the Middle East region and its diaspora to share their work and thoughts with US and global audiences. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome and introduce our conversation today with the amazing Tima Shomali, the creator and director of the Netflix original series AlRawabi School for Girls. Thank you for joining us, Tima.
Thank
Our
you.
moderator, Rhana Natour, is a journalist, host, and TV documentary film producer. Her work has appeared in PBS NewsHour, Vice News, and ABC News. At NewsHour, she covered national politics, breaking news events, and enterprise stories. And while at ABC News, Rhana earned an Emmy nomination for the special Crisis in Syria. In 2013, Rhana helped produce the feature documentary Speed Sisters. Before I turn this over to Rhana, a few housekeeping notes. Our host looks forward to taking audience questions through your Zoom Q&A feature, which you can find on your screens. For those calling in by phone or watching our panel on the live stream, you can ask a question by emailing events@mei.edu. If you have any technical issues, please email events@mei.edu. Feel free to ask a question at any time throughout the conversation, and Rhana will incorporate as many as possible in our limited time. With that, I would like to turn this over to you, Rhana. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Tima, for joining us from Amman. We have people here from all corners of the world, and we're really excited. I've gotten DMs all week with questions for you, so I'll be turning those over. But Tima Shomali is a Jordanian director, producer, and comedy actress. Most recently, she is the creator and director of the Netflix series AlRawabi School for Girls, which was a frequent top 10 on Netflix in many countries, including the Middle East. In 2013, Tima produced and starred in her own show called The Female Show. It's an online comedy show series that has over 95 million views to date. She has her own production company called Filmzian Productions and holds an MFA from the Red Sea Institute of Cinematic Arts. Thank you, Tima, for popping on here today. And I guess my first question is this show, AlRawabi School for Girls, it's one of the first fleet of original programming in Arabic on Netflix. And I'm wondering how the show came about and how it ended up landing on Netflix.
Thank you, Rana. First of all, I'm very happy to be here in this conversation. AlRawabi School for Girls is basically has been a dream to make. We've always had these stories about young women that we wanted to tell. And it's not like a spur of a moment kind of thing. It's an accumulation of years of stories that we really wanted to tell. So we felt like AlRawabi School for Girls, the environment of a school is the best umbrella to put all of these stories in. So we were developing the project, me and my co-creator Shireen Kamal, basically, and we've had the idea of it, and we started developing it on our own. We didn't know where are we going to, we don't know where it's gonna go. We just develop and we sit there and write. And yeah, and it was in a coffee meeting, by coincidence, literally. I had with someone in Netflix, and she was asking me what I'm working on, and we clicked, and there was chemistry, and she fell in love with the idea. And just like that, I went back. I was in Dubai back then, and I went back to Amman a week later, and she was like, "I'm coming to see you. We want the show." And that's like, you work. Sometimes you work. I always say this. Sometimes, because before I had a relationship with Netflix since they started in the Middle East, and I did some collaborations with them, and I pitched some shows, but it never worked. And I got busy with other work, and then it happens like this over coffee. So yeah.
That's the best outcome for any kind of coffee date that could ever happen. So what was the thread? Like, what was the thread of the idea? Did you set out to say, okay, I want to make a teen drama, or I want to make a film about a school? What was the germ of the show for you?
Basically, these stories, for me, there are a lot of let's say, stories and topics that we really wanted to talk about, and we really wanted to tackle. And in the region, it's not been tackled before in that way. So we wanted something real, something that since I was growing up, to be honest, I always, when I watch TV, I never found something that I could relate to, or I could say, that's similar to what happens to me, or I could relate with this character. And I never found that. So we always went to watch some Western shows, and try to connect with, even though it's a very different culture. So from my experience growing up, I was like, I want to do something that young girls would watch and say, I relate to this. I can feel myself there, or my sister, or these are our stories in our own language, that we feel that we are being represented, or we are being like something that is close to me. And so basically, that's the core of the thing. And I've always had this idea of a woman project to tell stories about women from the eyes of women as well. And the AlRawabi School for Girls was this experience for me, because I wanted to tell, because also we do have maybe a lot of stories about women, but it's rarely from the perspective of women. And it was very important for me and for my co-creator and team to have to tell these stories through our eyes, and through the eyes of women, not only in writing, also directing, also cinematography, production design, to have all of these women, amazing women, to input their own story into their own department. So it was for me a project made by women, about young women. So to answer your questions, yes, that was the core of, we wanted to tell these stories in a very raw and real way that people could, like young girls and young, generally, not Arabs, but generally could connect with, and feel that it's close to them. And I'm glad that it did this impact.
And the school is set in kind of this rarefied space of like a private school, beautiful neighborhoods. Is the idea of AlRawabi, is it set in a real place for you? Was there a real place that inspired you? And then how did you take that place, if that's the case, and fictionalize it into that world that you created in the show?
Yeah, so creating a AlRawabi School world, it's a fictional school, of course, and it was very important for me how the school look, what's the rules of the school, how does the girls in school act. And for me, it was not based on my own school experience, because there is no school that looks that perfect. Let's face it. It's perfect, it's clean, it's like shiny, it's all of pink. And that was on purpose. For me, I wanted to create this fictional school with this, let's say, elite kind of feel in terms of the look, because this, for me, it's, I wanted people to look at the school and see this perfect picture, and then we discover what lies beneath this perfect picture. And that's one of like all of these secrets and corruption and what's the secrets that we hide. But the truth is that this picture doesn't reflect what really happens in the school. That was one of the main points of doing basically this look. And also visually, it's nice. People would like to watch something that's colorful and that's visually attractive to them, to draw them to into the story. And also another part for me was basically um, I didn't breaking some of the stereotypes we see in these stories, because for me, yes, the school, maybe it was over the top and it's not really realistic in terms of how clean it is, but the stories are. And usually we see these stories coming from unfortunate neighborhoods or a different social class that they face, but it's not true. It's not true. And I didn't want to focus on like to ensure this stereotype, because these stories happens with everyone, and we don't have to put a label on it on this particular basically class, let's say. And yeah, so that was very important for me. And uh, for people to, yes, it is a fictional school, but it's important for people to connect with the characters and the stories, and to feel that regardless to all of this, because this school, AlRawabi School for Girls, it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Literally, it could be anywhere, and that was important for me. This could be anywhere. These stories, though, yes, it is real.
And when you were drafting like the plots, did you talk to teen girls and say like, okay, how do you guys date? How do you sneak? If you wanted to sneak out with a boy, how would you do it? Like,
Yeah.
where did you get the specifics? Because it felt like young girls it felt real to young girls, but it also didn't feel like explicit enough that it would freak parents out, you know, like you kind of straddled the line. So I'm wondering like what conversations you had in developing all of it.
So basically, I am a girl who maybe in a different age, of course, but I was a teenager in a girls' school, and I've experienced a lot of things of that. But of course, now with the change of the internet and the technology and social media, it's very different. But uh, a lot of it is also observations over the years. And when we started writing and developing Arawabi, I sat maybe with, I don't know how many teen girls. I did like a lot of research, because yes, these are stories that are close to me. And of course, every writer goes back to their own experiences and their own observations, but I need to be also up to date with what's happening now with girls now. So it was very important for me to sit with different teenagers in different environments and in different classes and different private public schools, and just hear them out. Like at some point I felt I was like a therapist. I'm like sitting there, and I'm like enjoying it. And it's amazing what inspires a writer. Like the smallest thing could inspire you to write something really big. And that was part of our also work. Like we did a lot of research.
Was there one of those small things that you picked up in the conversation that kicked off like a bigger thing for you?
There was one thing actually. when I was, because regarding to the actresses, most of them, except Rakin, they are first-time actors or, yeah, new actors. So
Wow.
the casting process took a lot of time from me, and also it helped me with talking to different girls as well through casting. One specific thing, maybe it was when I was, because I interview, other than casting, and even if the girl is shortlisted or anything, I based my choices on personal interviews with the girls. So one of the interviews I did with Joanna, who played Rania on the show, it was very interesting when I was talking to her, like, and asking her so many details about her life. Like, one of the things she told me actually inspired me to write for a different character, though, um, in her like in terms of characteristics, you know. So yeah, it was uh, it's very fruitful sitting with young girls and talking to them.
And those girls, you said most of the cast are first time actors. How did
Yeah.
you, they were amazing performances. How did you end up finding them? And were you scared to go with first time actors for your first Netflix series?
Honestly, with this show and the stories we wanted to tell, it was very important for me to have fresh actors and unique style and real style. So it was important for me to choose these young girls. Rakin Saad is an established actor. She's the only who played Nov. She's the only experienced actor. The other girls are like we. Of course, it's a challenge and it is kind of a risk, but at the same time it's very rewarding because I had so much time in casting. It took me time. I wasn't like it wasn't like yes, yeah, no, it took like almost 1 year of
Wow.
casting. I interviewed maybe over 500 girls. I don't remember the number, but yeah. And when we chose the girls, we had a lot of work with them. Like first, we gave them different workshops, 2 workshops about acting. Like I did a syllabus for one workshop, and one is about basically to be comfortable with their bodies and their expressions, and the other one of the general. Ethics on set and general techniques of acting in front of the camera and in general acting methods, basically. And also we had a lot of readings, a lot of rehearsals, a lot of exercises. Um, but honestly, I'm so proud of them and their performances and their rawness. There is this rawness in the way of acting that I really wanted on this show, and I'm hoping I accomplished it. But yeah, I'm so proud of them.
I think so. I mean, they don't feel like performances. You know, you can't really see them acting.
Yeah.
And how did you end up finding them? Was it like social media? Somebody said, there's a girl I know that might be good for this character. How did you stumble upon it?
Basically, we collaborate with a casting company. It's called
Mhm.
Tailbox, led by the casting director, Dareen Salam, and her amazing team, Aya and Dima. They're amazing women who are also part of the women behind the cameras who worked so hard and basically they do have that database, but they do online announcements. But with me, because I was really very picky, they've gone above and beyond to go and reach out to different young girls and bring us like options. So yeah, and it was not an easy mission, but it was great.
Yeah, your casting is, I mean, that sounds really challenging. For the show, I mean, at its heart, it looks like a teen drama. and it feels like a teen drama. But then once the show goes on, you realize there's all these other issues that come up, the pressures of family pressures on teenagers. You have bullying, and then you have some real violence towards the end that kind of ramps up. Was it important for you to touch on these issues, and how did you then work those issues into like the container of a teen drama? How did you manage all those different stories?
So basically, it's not like the idea I wanted to talk about this and this and this.
Yeah.
For me, one day in a girl's life could go through all of these things in one day. So I was, and we were in the writing team, we were real to ourselves, and we were real to what actually happens to young girls. For me, there was a lot of topics that this show tackled. One of the major things, of course, is bullying, and also bullying in my time was limited to the time when I go to school. And then when I go back, it's done. Yes, the damage, the psychological damage is there. But I mean, now with the technology, you never leave. You never, like, if you're bullied everywhere. So that was one of the topics. For example, the gap between, like the dialogue gap between families and parents and their kids, and what kind of disastrous consequences could happen because of that. There is no openness, and there is no they can't, if they face a problem, they can't go to their family for help. And when they do go to their family, they don't believe them, or they blame them, or they put it on them. So that was also something in a girl's life every day. Sexual harassment. If I walk down the street now and just go to buy something from the supermarket, I know for a fact I'm gonna get harassed one way or another, whatever I was wearing. So also that's something that happens in a day's life, like in a girl's day, each day. So it's not like I'm imposing ideas, or I'm imposing issues to put on the show. It's we were just being real to what we actually face as women. I consider myself one of these girls at some point, and still until now I'm at this age, and I face these things. It's not like, yeah. So and that was important for me. Also mental illness, and the stigma around it's like we have this denial of having mental issues, and we don't have this. And if you go to a therapist, you're a crazy person. That's the concept. That's basically the idea we have about going to a therapist. So maybe I didn't dig so deep in each of these, but it is there, and it is a part of the girl's day every day. So when it's genuine, and you tell the story from a place that how it happens, it's gonna be organic, it's gonna be real, because I'm not trying to impose ideas or issues. It is there, and we face it every day. It's just the way we tell the story is what matters to get the attention of the audience for me, and mainly to sympathize with the characters. Because also an important thing was for us in writing is like, we wanted these characters multi-dimensional, and not like two-dimensional characters. You're either good or you're bad. I'm sorry, but no one is like this. No one. I'm not always good, and I'm not always bad. I am bad sometimes, but I am good sometimes. So that's when you deal with the characters this way, it becomes real. So Maryam, the girl you sympathized with at the beginning of the story, you hated at the end. And at the same time, you never imagined that you would ever sympathize with a character, with Layan's character. And but we at the middle of the show, we start seeing where is Layan coming from, and why is she like this, and what is she going through. Because believe me, no one is born a bully. No one is born a bully.
Yeah.
And that was very important for us to show this, the two sides of the story. And everyone has a dark secret, and everyone has a dark side. uh, and uh, and as the theme of the show says, not everything you see is the truth. And we tried as much as we can, um, to do that and have these multi-dimensional characters that people could relate to and feel that they are real, you know.
And the thing that got me thinking after I watched the show is that, like, what happens in a teen girl's life in the Arab world, in the Middle East, can have consequences for the rest of her life. So a rumor, a bad scandal, can really like follow somebody for years and impact marriage prospects, the family reputation. So there's a lot riding on all of this, and I'm wondering, like, how you decided to show all of that, because there's so many different things going on in each girl. So could you talk about that, like, long lasting impact of what happens to girls when they're in that teenage phase, and how you played with that a little bit in the show?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like a stain. Like if you do, but after all, they're teenagers, and whether they're boys or girls, whatever they do at this age, they're teenagers. But unfortunately, in our culture, a scandal is a scandal, and you can't survive from it. Once it's out there, it's gonna be out there, and to give it even more and to become worse now with the online, it's even worse. And now it's becoming more of an issue, because now if something goes online, it's there forever. And imagine if we are in a culture that we will judge a woman by whatever, and it's there online, she's done for. And that is a big issue, to be honest, to have. And also, for example, I don't like to call it honor crimes, because there is no honor in any crime. But in the show's finale, you see how something very, very, very small, uh, for me, something very small, if only Maryam's mom believed her, nothing would happen. And Maryam, we established her as a character who is a woman advocate, and advocates scarce power, but she is a character who acted against her own ethics, to use something that she thinks it's wrong for society to judge on, and used it against Layan. For her to reach that place, and she's been she felt she's alone, and there is no one but her. So she takes matter into her own hands. So this small thing developed to, until the end, when we establish how Layan's brother is brought to think what is basically honor for him. And also, it was very important for me to show Layan's brother Hazem as a victim to society, because
Yeah.
he is brought up to believe that he is responsible about his sister, and he should take care of her and her honor. Like they keep her in this as a princess in the room, and save her from all the harm outside. Like if something touched her, is like, and he feels that he was brought up to believe that this is my responsibility, and this is my honor, that I have to protect it. So when he goes in and sees this, although nothing happened between Layan and her boyfriend, but seeing this, he blacks out like this, and he thinks that something happened and she tainted that family honor. And and his emotions was so raw for me. It was very important to show this, because I could have executed this scene in a way that he's violence, but and he starts hitting his sister. But no, he is a human also. He loves his sister. Of course he loves his sister, and he doesn't want to harm her, but at the same time he's conflicted. I love my sister, but this is what society thinks, and this is my responsibility to save the family honor. You know, so for me, the way people, to come back to your point, and how girls are judged for simple things, that a scandal, what we call scandal now, maybe a revealing photo, or a photo for a girl without her hijab, or whatever, all of these blackmailing things online happening with these young girls, whatever it is it worth uh, all of this? And for men, for me, I really would like men who watch this show and ask ourselves, are we followers to what the society or what we brought up to believe? And should we also move our head and use our head and think of what's right and wrong? So yeah, it's honestly, it's so sad, and that this is still very true. Like now, if something happens and something is released and it's scandal, it's tainted the girl forever. And we saw this with Ruqayya in our show, when the mother told her, now you ruined your sister's chances to get married with your doing. So also, all of these things, it's sad. And I think more awareness and more of um, some of the policies that should change. That like at some point, I always hope like the shows we make is yes, reach out to people and make them ask the questions, and also start changing actual policies that are basically encouraging these kind of behaviors, you know.
And if you guys have any questions, please do drop it in the chat. Since we're nearing the end of our conversation. But for a spoiler alert warning, I wanted to really talk to you about this ending, because after that ending, I stared at the TV screen for like 5 minutes. I was like, no, this can't be what happened. So how did you decide to go that route? And you shot it in a certain way that almost left no question of what happened, but also we didn't show it. How did you play that out?
Yes, the ending, I know a lot. I got this reaction, like I got people filming themselves basically, and while they're watching the ending and telling me what's this, like why. I know it's shocking, but and again, spoiler alert for anyone who haven't reached that episode. I want it was very important to me to reach that way, but at the same time not to show it, because no matter what was the ending, no matter what was the ending, really, whatever was the ending, what happened happened. Why it happened, we showed the process, how it happened and why it happened, and what's these consequences, and small things, like from something very small can be big until it reaches to a disastrous consequence. So I wanted to show that to the audience and end on that note, for them to ask themselves, not give them the, like, ask themselves first question, who was right, who was wrong?
Yeah.
Maryam is a victim, but Layan as well is a victim. Who at the end, who are you with? They're both victims. Both of them are victims. You can't, like, Maryam is a teenager. She's young. She's impulsive, and she's been mistreated in so many ways, and no one stood by her to a limit that led her to act this way. So she is a victim in some way. Yes, what she did is she crossed a line, But after all, if you as a parent or someone who is old enough to understand, you couldn't contain this girl, are you going to blame her to her on her actions? And her mind is not even complete, you know.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Layan is a victim. So leaving the audience with this question: who was right and who was wrong, and who is and the truth is, like, they're both right and wrong. And basically it leaves you in saying that if only Maryam's mom believed her, nothing could have happened. We haven't reached here. So it goes back to Maryam's mom. So it goes back to parents. Also, it goes back to society with Hazem as well. So there is so many elements, but it's not one of these faults, not Layan and not Maryam, but everyone else. Everyone else is part of this, you know. And it was, I really wanted people to think. I wanted them to leave them there and stop and think of what just happened, because no matter what was the ending, all of this happened. Yeah. Whether she died, she didn't die, we reached here to this point, a disastrous point already. Yeah.
So people were kind of sending you live video of their. Did people mad at you? Were they?
Yeah, a lot of people were mad. A lot of people were shocked. Like, I received videos of people doing like this, and the ending song is playing, and they're like this, and some people said it's so sad, but it's so much true and so needed. Yeah, you know. So I understand it was so hard for people to end this show in this way, but reality is hard as well. Yeah.
I mean, it was a bold choice, but it paid off. And you guys, again, drop any questions that you guys have for Tima in the chat. But I wanted to ask you just about you created the show Female Show. You put it online, and you've really been experimenting with like satire, stuff on relationships and gender and just funny things that happen in everyday life. And I'm wondering what you see as like the future of content creation, like where the most innovative stuff is happening on the Arab world about it from your perspective.
Honestly, we are in a time where everything changes so fast. People's attention span has been it's very minimum now. So you need to attract people easily and try to get their attention, because with these 15-second videos and everything online and the content online, it's basically changing. So I see a lot of digital media and online platforms. Honestly, I do think it's the future is the online platforms for content creation. I don't know if I got your question right. And
yeah, I've been missing these questions that have been coming up, so let me ask them here. So Hussam Kukon, I'm sorry, Hussam, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but says, I'm writing stories and I would love to learn how to write in professional script writing. Do you have any advice about script writing?
So I don't know where are you based, but what I advise you to do is try and actually now everything you can take courses online, because it's very important that first that you do have stories to tell, that you have stories that you want to tell, and use that, even if it's not in the right structure or not in the right format, just write. And for it to move to a more professional way, I do think it's very important to study, to read a lot, how to create, because there is a lot of books and a lot of online courses, to be honest, interesting things to read of how to build your story, whether it was for film or TV, because it is kind of a different format, of course, and how to create your characters, and what's the main questions you need to ask yourself while writing your story. So what I suggest to you is try, whether you are, I don't know where you're based, find around you some places who do workshops or do it online, because a lot of things online, and read a lot. Like no matter where you reach, you always need to read. Like for me, I always read and try to find to refresh my mind and find new ways to storytelling, because there is a lot, and the sky is your limit with creativity and writing. So yeah.
And Larry Schwartz asked what you think about the role of government, and as the industry in the Middle East develops or advances or changes, their role in constraining artistic freedoms or encouraging it. What do you see as the role of the government there, and do you have any hopes or concerns around that?
Basically, to be honest, I can't answer for because every region is different.
Yeah.
But we do have like kind of freedom in speech, and for me, I think we are we are lucky to have the Royal Film Commission in Jordan, working with them. So I don't know basically for him in which region his question is, but I don't think I can help him. But for me, we are in a place where of course you, in order to film something, you need to take specific permissions to, and we do that through the Royal Film Commission.
And Fernanda Fontanese, she's a Brazilian actress, and she wanted to ask you about the process of preparing the cast and the choice of actors. You talked about it a little bit, but is there anything that you want to say if you were, talking to an actor themselves?
Yeah, for me, for like in our case, it was first-time actors, mainly. So we had a lot of workshops to do with them, and readings and rehearsal. But for an actress, what I would suggest always, to work on the character and find what you connect with and what you can, because yes, you have a script, and that's what the most actors who always I admire, who ask a lot and come and suggest things for their characters. Maybe as simple as I feel that how do work on your character even without the director and the writers, just of course under their direction, but I mean work on it in a way that try to find out how does your character move, how does it, for example, speak, what's the tone of their voice, and when they laugh, do they laugh a lot, or do they, or these small details, for example, or find something for your character that's specific. For example, your character likes to always do this, it's something, this is just an example, like live inside the character and work on it. Know what, even if it's not required of you, what's this character favorite book, what music does she listen to, even if it's not there, the director didn't tell you about it, or there's no reference for it, work for it on your, like, for yourself, for your character, because it really really helps a lot.
And this question is coming from actually a 12th grade class. The teacher, Joseph Sills, he's a high school Arabic teacher in New York, and he had his students in 12th grade watch the show as part of their studying of the dialect. And the students wanted to know, for the scene in the locker room and some others, were there intentionally queer themes coded into the show's dialogue wardrobe? I know you played with a little bit of the aspect of one of the characters staring at the girl while she was changing and that kind of thing, but were there themes or visuals that you put in to reference that storyline at all?
In this story, no, we didn't have that, but how is it in locker rooms with girls?
Mm-hmm.
Like there is always this kind of you're curious to see stuff. You like to observe. So of course there is this vibe in locker rooms and in girls' bathrooms that girls would know, you know.
Mhm.
But in our show, no, we didn't have reference for that.
And last question, and then I'm going to throw it to Lynn because we're a little bit over our time here. So thank you guys for sticking around. Hala Alibias wanted to know, is it challenging being a female director in the Middle East? And what is your advice to any young women who want to be directors themselves?
Honestly, it's professionally speaking, the challenges for a male or female director are the same. Like we
Yeah.
face the same professional challenges, but for women in particular in film, it's more of cultural challenges. For a woman to reach the same place as a man, it would take her more time and effort to do it. First, there is this cultural challenges. Sometimes some family disagree, and you need to go through that. Sometimes it's basically you need to prove yourself so hard as a woman and work maybe double or triple than a man to prove that you can do this.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not easy culturally. I'm speaking, and and my advice, honestly, if you are into this field, you need to really love it and have so much passion, because it's not easy. And um, sometimes you'll question if you should just quit, but don't if you love it. And I always say, fasten your seatbelt, because it's going to be a bumpy ride, but it's worth the journey.
Thank you, Tima, for joining me, and thank you to everyone who answered to ask
Thank you,
questions.
Rana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Lynn, I don't know if you want to say some parting words.
Thank you. Yes, I want to thank you both for this compelling conversation. Thank you, Rana, for your moderation, and Tima, thank you for all the work you're doing. I know what everybody is going to be doing tonight. Whoever has not seen AlRawabi on Netflix yet, I know that they will all be tuning in tonight to watch it, and that's exactly what we need. I am filled with hope, because it is projects like this that are really projects of storytelling by and from the region that spark our collective thinking, all of us, so that society in its entirety can think about these things and move forward. So I want to thank you both for this conversation and for sharing with us so honestly and thoughtfully. And on that note, for our audiences, I want to say, please stay tuned for the next Creators Corner conversation, and keep an eye on our arts and culture programming. If you are in DC, come see our current exhibition, Between the Sky and the Earth, Contemporary Arts from the UAE. It is a beautiful show, bringing together some of the best talents that are making the UAE art scene the exciting place it is. For details about the show and how to make an appointment to visit our website, www.mei.edu, Arts and Culture Center, and follow us on social media, Twitter @MEI Arts Culture. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Tima.